In this lesson, we are going to continue the process of redoing the old lessons, and this time it's going to be with the portal scene that we did a few lessons ago. It's like we did for the 3D text lesson. The idea is that we are practicing React 3 Fiber in a known context to see the differences, to be able to progress a bit more easily than a brand new project, and to discover some new features along the way. Okay, so this is the final result that you probably remember, and I'm going to close this final result and talk about the starter. But first, quick reminder that we are not going to redo the whole modeling part, the baking, the exporting, etc., because those are exactly the same. With Blender, etc., this whole part, which took hours, is exactly the same. I'm just talking about the implementation. We are going to do the implementation in this lesson. By the way, you can also use your own portal, but be careful. Some parts, some sections, we will do stuff like regarding the name of the mesh, etc. So you might have some surprises, but don't worry. I will try to give you some hints of places, steps where it can be a bit different for you. And anyway, if it's too different, you can just use the model provided with this lesson. About the setup, we have the same setup as the one we had in the beginning of the 3D text lesson with React 3 Fiber, which is just a cube. Okay, not much. We have the cube which had with the mesh normal material. We're going to get rid of it once we have something else on the screen. The purpose is only to have something and make sure that everything is working. We already have Dre added to the project, and we're using the orbit controls helper so that we can rotate around, and that's all. Also the shaders of the portal, remember we wrote some shaders for the portal, are available in the shaders folder. All right, it's inside the src, then shaders folder, and all we have is the portal one. If I show you from the finder, it will look something like this. See, there is only the portal. This is the vertex and the fragment shader. We are not going to write them again because it's exactly the same shaders. We are just going to use them from the previous lessons. And you might think that there is one shader missing. I mean, one fragment and vertex shader missing, and it's for the fireflies. Don't worry, it's on purpose. You will see why right after. And we're going to start. So I get back to VS Code right here. I'm going to close the sidebar with the background. Okay, this time we are not going to tweak the colors and do something brighter than the initial lesson. We're going to redo the exact same lesson, almost exact. But first, we need to change that background, which is a default background, which is transparent. It's not white. What you see here is the white of the page that is behind. So we can change this one. Actually, you can try to do it on your own. We've seen different solutions to do that. And we are going to use the color technique. And it's going to go super fast. Check that. In the experience, I'm going to add a color tag like this that I auto-close. And then I'm going to add args so that I can provide a color to it, and I'm going to send an array. Don't forget to send an array every time I send something like, I don't know, red. This is wrong. You need to provide an array. Even if there is only one argument, you need to provide an array. And for the color, it's going to be 20, 19, 19. Next, to make that color work in the background, because currently all we did there was to create a color. React 3 Fiber, we create an instance of the color, but we need to use that color on the background property of the scene, remember from the previous lessons. And to do that, we need to use the attach attribute so that this instance, the color instance, will attach to the background property of the parent. And the background property of the and the parent is the scene. If you do that, give it a reload, and you get the dark background. So it's not black, it's kind of a very dark brown. Nice. By the way, you can tweak it the way you want. You can even add leva and have some fun with that background. Next, we are going to take care of the model. So how are we going to do that? The model file is named portal.glb and is located in the public.model folder. So if I show you from my finder, see there, it's inside the public folder, then the model folder, and I have the model right here. There is also the baked texture. That's where you should put your own model. Maybe change the name so that you keep those ones in case something goes south. You will be able to change to the version I provide with the lesson. We are going to use use GLTF, all right? The use GLTF hook because the helper from Dre, because well, it's the helper that that enable loading GLTF. It's perfect in our case, and it's going to make everything super convenient. So we're going to import it, use GLTF right before the orbit controls. The order is not important anyway. And then we're going to load the model, and it's the usual technique. So const, I'm going to call it model because we're going to load only one model. So let's call it model. Use GLTF, and you're going to put the path to the file. And the path will look something like that, all right? Be careful. The path looks like this because it's inside the public folder. And it's probably like the third time I'm explaining this, but everything inside that public folder is available like if it was on the same domain, okay, on the same, aside from the index.html. So in here we are on the index.html file. If I add model slash, and I can try actually, I can show you like baked.jpg, baked.jpg like this. So this is the path. I didn't have to put public. I'm going to open in a new folder, in a new tab, and as you can see, we have the file. Right? You get the idea. So if you put ./model/portal, it's going to look something like model/portal, etc. Anyway, let's move forward. We're going to log this little guy. So console.log like this model, and we get this. So it's the usual thing when we use GLTF. There is the scene. There is some other things that we are going to use, etc., etc. There is no animations in that model. The model is composed of multiple parts. If you remember when we created the model, there is the baked model to which we need to apply the mesh basic material with the baked texture that I shown you right before. So it's this baked texture we need to apply on the baked model, which is most of the scene, but not everything, because there is also two pole lights. Okay, it's separated from the baked model to which we need to apply the mesh basic material. Okay, the pole lights, I'm talking about the lights, not the wood part of the poles, is not in there. And we need to get the geometry and apply our own mesh basic material on those. And finally, there is a portal, you know, with the cool animation in the middle of it. So we have four main parts because there is two pole lights. Because of that, we are not going to add the whole model at once to the scene. It's a bit different that we did for what we did for the hamburger. We're not going to add a primitive and add the model.scene into that primitive object attribute. Instead, we are going to create the different parts ourselves. Okay. So that we can, one, we have the baked texture, one, we have some mesh basic material, another, we have a custom shader, etc., etc. So how do we get access to those separated elements? If you check from the model that we've logged, so this variable here that we get from the use GLTF, we have a bunch of things. And check inside that nodes property here. We get the scene. It's the list of all the nodes inside our model. We have the scene, and we have the baked, and we have the pole light A and the pole light B and the portal light. And those are actually the various meshes that are separated because I'm using the model that we created together. Maybe you named them differently. In that case, check that. You can continue the lesson, don't worry. But when I will write pole light A, you might have to write something else. Okay, so make sure, check the names that you use inside the nodes property. So we can continue. We can access those nodes by doing model.nodes, or we can destructure it. So let's destructure the model, and we call it nodes so that we can access nodes like this. Because we are lazy, we want to write minimum code, so we do it like that. Okay, nice. We can move forward, and we're going to start with the main part, which is the baked model. So the baked model node is named baked, as we saw right before. So it's right here. Okay, it's this one here. And we can access it like that. So it's going to be nodes.bake, baked with a D. All right, cool. We are not going to use the primitive as I told you earlier. Instead, we're going to create our own meshes. So let's go. We're going to create the mesh. I'm going to put it after the cube mesh, and it's going to be mesh that I auto-close, because we don't need to put the geometry inside and the material inside. Instead, we are going to provide the geometry as an attribute because we already have this geometry inside the nodes.bake.geometry. All right, it's right here, and we only take the geometry out of it, and we use that geometry. So I can cut this and put it right here. So equal, and we inject that property here. And we're going to test it, and we don't need to add a material because React 3 Fiber provides a default material. And as you can see, we have our portal. It was easy, even if we are doing some parts manually, it's still quite easy. And since we can see something, we can get rid of the cube. So let's go bye-bye cube. We get this. All right, give it a reload. Sometimes the meshes are going away. I think it's because of the order, the IDs, etc. Sometimes the renderer get a bit lost, so give it a reload if you see something odd. So we are going to add our own material, but first we need to load the texture. And it's only at the 8th lesson that we are discovering how to load textures. Don't worry, it's super easy, super convenient, because we can use a helper, which is the use texture helper. Yes, we could use like the texture loader from 3JS, native 3JS, and then use the use loader from Dre or some weird stuff like this. Or we can just use a helper that will be super handy. So let's go. We're going to import this one. It's going to be use texture like that. And then we can use it over there. So I can put it here before the nodes. Why not? It's not that important. Baked texture equal, let's see what we get, use texture, and we provide the path to the JPEG file. It's the same as this one. In terms of beginning of the path, so /model, it's not portal, it's baked.jpg. So make sure you have the exact same one as me. And then we're going to load it, unless you have a different file, obviously. Make sure to use your file if you're doing the lesson with your own files. And we get the texture, and that was that easy. Can we use it? Yep. So we're going to go there. Actually, we're going to add the material inside the mesh. So we need to open it and close it manually, like that. Oops. Close it. It's going to look like that. Don't forget the slash in there. And then we can use a mesh basic material because we don't want light and things like that. It's much easier. We just want to place that texture on top of it. And it's going to be the baked texture. And it's going to almost work. Yeah, we have a small issue. First, if it's a bit bright, just give it a reload and it's going to fix it. All right, we're going to talk about this a bit later. Actually, no, it's just because the initial material wasn't changing the encoding of the material. And when we inject it, the hot module replacement will just add the texture, but React 3 Fiber didn't change the encoding inside of it because it was already created. That's the only reason. We don't really we don't care about that because we just give it a reload and it's working. So yeah, there is an issue right here. No, it's not the wrong file. Don't worry, I put the right file in the folder. The problem is that it's flipped vertically, so on the y-axis, just like with the issue we had in the initial lesson. So we need to flip it, and it's going to be quite convenient. Check that. We can do bake texture dot flip y equal, and it's going to be false because by default it's true. So you just put false, give it a reload, and it's working. That was so convenient. Check that. A few lines of code and we have our model and we can rotate around. That's super nice. We are missing obviously some meshes in there, but we are going to fix that shortly. By the way, quick things I think I want to show you that I didn't add to the slides. You can also do it differently. Like check that, it's looking like that. Since the map is inside the mesh basic material, we can do map dash flip y equal false, like that. And if you give it a reload, it's working. All right, you can do that this way too. I like to do it on the texture because we already have some reference to the texture. I mean, we have a variable corresponding to the texture. So let's change the texture directly because this is on the material, but we are targeting the map in the material and we are targeting the property inside the map of the material. So it's a bit far-fetched, but you can totally do that in here if you prefer. I'm going to use this technique right here and give it a reload. Okay, nice. It's already pretty good, but it's a bit high because the camera and the orbit control are rotating around the center, which is right here. So if you look from there, it's too high. There are two options. We can move the camera up and the orbit control up. That's one option. Or we can center everything, center what we have in the scene by using the center helper. I just changed the mood of my room. Actually forgot to switch the lights off. Sorry for that. Let's move forward. So we are going to use the center helper that we already used in a previous lesson. So center like this, and we are going to put it around. Currently there is only this mesh here. So it's going to be center. Don't forget to indent a little, and we get this. So now it's center on the scene, just like that. Quite easy. Let's move forward. We need to add the pole lights because currently they look like this. All right. They are empty, so we need to add those meshes. It's going to be a little bit trickier. You will see. Trickier. It's hard to say. So we're going to add kind of the same meshes to start with. So mesh, geometry, equal, and this time it's going to be in the nodes. The pole light A, that's the name of the pole light. Be careful if you change the name, if you have a different name, and we're going to use the geometry of it. And we can auto close the mesh. Where is my pole light? Can't see it. Well, actually it's because it's right here in the floor. Okay, so maybe you have a different result if you use your own model, but in my case it's right here in the floor. Why? Well, because we transform that point light in Blender, we moved it, etc. Maybe we rotated the pole light, and currently it's just a mesh with no position, rotation, and scale. It's just a mesh and no geometry. So by default, it's going to be at the center of the scene. So we need to move it, and we are not going to move it manually and try to find where it should fit. Instead, we are going to use the position that we can get from this mesh. Okay, the mesh that we loaded using the use GLTF. The position is saved right here. We just need to use it. So let's go. We're going to do, I can add some line breaks. I don't know why I didn't add line breaks in the lesson. So position, and we send the pole light, and it's not going to be the geometry, it's going to be the position. This is a mesh that we loaded, and this is the position property, and we are sending it to the position attribute. And check that. The pole light is there. Yeah, I got it wrong. I thought it was this one, but it's this one here. Don't worry, we're going to take care of the other one. And it's working. Nice. Let's move forward. We are missing a material inside of it. The default material is white, so it looks good, but let's follow the initial lesson and create our own material. So first, we're going to close it ourselves, like that, so that we can put a material inside of it. Mesh basic material. We provide the color, and the color is very close to white, but with, I think it's a bit yellow, something like that. Okay, and we get, it's very similar, okay? There is also something wrong happening with the colors, but we are going to talk about that a bit later. Okay, nice. For the other pole lights, well, it works just the same. We're going to be a bit lazy. Check my screen. I'm going to duplicate this part here. So it's the pole light A. I'm going to duplicate it and name this one pole light B, just like that. And I'm going to just save, and here you go. You have the pole light here. Yes, we have 2 times the same mesh basic material, so it's not perfectly optimized. Honestly, it's nothing. Making the app more complicated by having only one material just for that is overkill, and it will make your app more complicated for almost nothing. So we are going to keep it like that. We create 2 materials, but if you want to practice a little and try to create the material before using the techniques that we saw in previous lessons, be my guest. Next, we have almost everything. We are missing the main piece, which is the portal right here, the cool portal and the cool animation. So let's go. We're going to create a mesh. It's going to be at the end. Don't hesitate to add some comments. I don't do it so that I have as much code as possible in the screen, but put some comments so that you can figure out where are the things. So let's go. We create a mesh. Let's do it from scratch this time. We're going to use the geometry. I'm going to add some line breaks like this. equal, it's going to be the nodes, and it's going to be the portal light. I named it portal light. There is a light in the name because it was actually casting lights in the whole scene. See that? It's brighter here because it was an emissive material in Blender. And I like to add emissive or light in the name when it's the case. That geometry, something like that. And it's right here. As you can see, we have some Z fighting, which is actually quite cool, but that's not the effect we want to get. And we need to add some attributes to it. So let's start with the position. You probably already finished this part before me. I'm talking way too much. So position, like that, it's almost there. The other one we need to add is the rotation. And let's be lazy and duplicate the line. And now it's good. Be careful. Maybe you also need the scale. If you're using your own model, maybe you played with the scale, and in that case, you just duplicate this line and use the scale. Okay, I can add it since my scale is still 1, but in your case, maybe you need to add the scale. Okay, give it a reload, and it's working. And yeah, we added the rotation. We are almost there, but there is a small issue, and maybe you noticed it. Like the color are a bit weird. Okay, they look kind of brighter, more vivid, more contrasted. Why is this happening? Well, because React 3 Fiber sets a tone mapping. Remember that? React 3 Fiber default configuration has a tone mapping applied, and it's ACES something tone mapping. I forgot the name, the exact name. Anyway, we don't want that because we already applied some tone mapping. It's called a color management with the filmic and stuff from Blender. There is already some color management happening, and then we baked the scene with that tone mapping in Blender. We are not talking about React and 3JS and React 3 Fiber, etc. Just in Blender, we already have some color management and tone mapping happening, and we export a texture, and in that texture, we already have the colors that have been tweaked to look good. And on top of that, we are adding another tone mapping. So it's not that bad, but it's not accurate. We want to fix that. And be careful, it's going to be super, super complicated. I hope you're ready. We're going to go inside the index.js file and add, are you ready? Flat. Give it a reload and we are done. That's all. And maybe you guessed it actually, because we already talked about the flat. Adding the flat attribute will stop the use of a tone mapping. It will set the tone mapping as no tone mapping, or maybe it's linear tone mapping, which are the same. You get the same result. There is no tone mapping applied. And it just worked like that. So now we have the colors that we had from Blender, the exact same color that we are supposed to have, like this. All right, cool. Let's move forward. And we're going to add the fireflies because it's a cool scene, but it's better when it's animated, more immersive, etc. So let's go for the fireflies. We want to add the fireflies represented by glowing particles. If you remember, it's just some particles moving here and there, and they're floating around. Okay, cool. In the original lesson, we created those particles, those fireflies, with a custom shader. Remember that part? It was quite a fun part, actually. But this time, we're going to use a Dray helper, which is sparkles, and sparkles will do exactly what we need here. So let's go back to experience.js, so the main file. We're going to import sparkles with an S from React 3 Dray, and we are going to add it. It can be at the end of the thing, inside the center, by the way. Yeah, put all the meshes and the sparkles are inside the center, and we can auto close it, and we save. And maybe you can notice them. See, they are here floating around. They are a bit small by default. If you put the camera below the floor, you might notice them. They are right here. They are moving around, and it's so convenient. Obviously, they are not perfectly placed, so we're going to fix that, and we're going to change the size too. So let's go. It's just a bunch of attributes. I'll let you discover everything about that helper if you need on the, just follow the link. But we can just set a few, I think it's 4 attributes, and we are good to go. So size 6, so that they are bigger. Nice. Let's move forward. Let's play with the scale. We can provide 3 values because it's on the X. It's not the scale of the particle, it's the scale of the area, which is kind of a cube. I mean, a box in which the fireflies, the sparkles will move around. So we provide 4 to 4, which is 4, 4. It's the size like this. So it's 4, 4 and on the Y it's 2, so it will go like over there. Let's go. And we get something like that. So it's working, but we need also to move them up a little. So it's going to be position dot y equal 1, like that. So now they are all above the floor. That's nice. I mean, some of them are having fun below the floor, but we don't really care about that. You can move them even more if you don't want that. And we're going to slow them down because even if I like them, they are going a bit too fast. So speed equal, and we can provide, I don't know, like 0.2. Now they are moving slowly, and now it's working really nice. By the way, let's reduce the amount. I think there is something like 100. It's a bit too much. We can use like 40, and it's working just nice. Super nice. I like them. You can tweak them more. All right, I just put some default setting to go fast on this lesson, but check the documentation and have fun with those attributes and parameters. Final part, I think. Yeah, I'm quite sure it's the final part. Let's take care of that portal, okay? Because that's not the shader we created. This part is a bit longer. We need to add a custom shader material that we had for the portal. Since we already did it in the original lesson, we're not going to rewrite the shaders. That's why what I told you earlier. The shaders are located, I can show you from the Finder because VS Code is doing something weird with the folder, which makes sense, but it's a bit weird. So shaders, so it's inside the SRC, this one here, shaders, portal, and then we have the vertex and fragment shader that I took from the previous lesson. They are exactly the same. So let's create a basic shader first. It's for that mesh right here that we open and close manually. In here, we are going to provide a shader material. Okay, I forgot to push a mesh basic material. Yeah, I just realized that we were supposed to put a mesh basic material that looks like this. But by default, React Free Fiber provides a mesh basic material, a white mesh basic material, so we get the same result. So let's get rid of this one and instead put a shader material that will automatically instantiate a shader material. That's how React Free Fiber works. Good news, we can see something, and that's great because Three.js provide a default vertex shader and a default fragment shader that will look like this, like it's a red material, and it's so that we can see something by default. Thank you. Then, yeah, we can see it. We need to import the shaders, and that's where things get a bit tricky. Importing shaders is a bit tricky. If we try to do it like any import, we get an URL, but we would like the raw content instead. Let me show you what's happening there. We are going to import it like this. You can write this part because we are going to tweak it, but we still need the import. So portal vertex shader, yes, I like to use long names like this. And we're going to import it so it's relative to the file we are in right here. So let me show you. It's relative to this file. So we need to go inside the shader folder, shaders folder, then the portal folders, and then take those files. So it's going to be ./shader /portal / and it's going to be, let's start with the vertex shader. Yeah, because the name is portal vertex shader, vertex.glsl. What do we get when we do that? We get something like that. It's not that bad because we get an URL that we can use inside our code, maybe to load it. Like this URL will work. Like if I put it there, check that. Oops, not like this. I just need the string. It downloaded this part. I mean, copied this part too. So it's going to look something like that. Yeah, see, it created a kind of a fake path that will load the file. Okay, that's great, but that's not what we want. This will work with, I don't know, like images, and then you can use that URL to load images. Fine, but we want what's inside it. What's inside that? Okay, we want this text right here. And unfortunately, with this configuration, it's a bit complicated. So we are going to twist it a little. You will see it's going to go quite fast, which is actually the opportunity for me to show you some tricks with VS Code and backquotes, backticks, etc. First, yeah, we are not going to change the configuration. It's possible, but it's a bit hard. I don't want to start doing this kind of stuff. Instead, we are going to change the name here, and we're going to rename it .js. Weird, but let's do that. .js. VS Code is asking you, you updated the file name. Do you want to update the imports you do in that project? I'm going to say no. Okay, you do whatever you want. Anyway, at the end we're going to change it. But for now, let's keep the GLSL, which is wrong, and we get an error. Next, so we did that. Next, in the vertex.js, so this is not JavaScript. We're going to export. Follow what I'm doing. Export default, and check that I'm going to put the whole shader inside backticks like this. Okay, and I'm going to save. Then we're going to go inside the experience.js. So export default backticks open here and backticks closed here, and we put the whole shader in there. It's the same shader. Back to experience.js. I need to change the GLSL to JS and check that. Give it a reload. Oh, I forgot to, I removed the log. So console log this variable here, and we get back our shader. We get the shader as raw. So it's actually this kind of the simplest solution I could come with without tweaking the configuration, which is a bit hard. You can tweak the configuration, or you can use a different bundler. By the way, I've set the default React bundler with minimal setup, but you can use any other bundler like, I don't know, Parcel, Vite, JS, etc. That might support GLSL quite easily. The main issue I have here that we are going to fix is that we lost syntax coloration. It's all green and it's hard to figure out what is where. Like those vec4, this, I want the syntax coloration back. And we can have the syntax coloration back quite easily if we are using VS Code. If you are using something else than VS Code, I'm quite sure you can have the same result. I'm going to show you for VS Code. You probably can find some similar extensions for other software. So let's go. First, we're going to add right here, right before the first backtick, we're going to add a comment GLSL like this. And it has to be right before inside a comment like this. So for now, it's the same result, but now we can add an extension. So if you are on VS Code, it's this icon here, extension, and look for ES6 string HTML like that. Be careful, you can have quite a different result depending on the size you set for the sidebar. So there is no icon here, we have the icon here. So just maybe resize so that we have the same result. And I'm going to use this one. This one will test what you have in your file, and if ES6 string HTML see something like that, it will apply this syntax coloration to the backtick. There are other extensions doing that, so maybe it's not the best one. I just know that I've been using this one for quite a long time and it's just working perfectly, so I'm using this one. Feel free to use something else. You click on install, it's going to show the extension right here. You can close that, you can close this and close that, and check that out. We have the colors back, and it's much better to write GLSL in that file. All right, cool. You can try to do it on the other one. It's the same process. We did it for the vertex.shader. We can do it for the fragment shader. We have no choice, actually. So let's go. Fragment.glsl, I'm going to rename it fragment.js. I'm going to open it in VS Code, and I'm going to export by default a backcoat, which is everything I have in the file. Okay, so export default, and I put everything in there. And then I'm going to add the little GLSL here, the little comment here, so that we have the syntax correction. Nice. And back to experience.js, we can load it. So I'm going to duplicate this one here, and it's going to be portal fragment shader. And here it's going to be fragment like this, and we can test what we get here. So don't forget to change both the name of the import and the path. It's going to be fragment, and we save, and we get the shader like this. So it wasn't too complicated. We still have the syntax coloration, etc. So how do we implement those shaders? Now it's quite easy, but we are going to have some surprises and then discover some features. You will see. Back to the shader material tag right here, we can provide the vertex shader, and we are going to inject, we're going to inject the one we imported it, so it's a portal.vertex shader, and then we can do the same for the fragment shader. It's going to be the portal.fragment shader, like this. And what do we get? Unfortunately, we get nothing. Did we do something wrong? If you get an error, you probably did something wrong. But that's if you get nothing in the portal, that's normal, because we need to provide some uniforms. If you remember, the shader needs 3 uniforms, which are the uTime, uColorStart, and uColorEnd, so that we can add some colors to our portal. Okay, and the uTime is used to animate the pattern inside the portal. So we need to send those uniforms if you want to see something there. So let's go. We need to provide those uniforms. We can use the uniforms attribute. So it's going to be uniforms like that. And we're going to inject something. For uTime, it's easy because it's a number. Okay, we can just provide the number right here. I will show you. But before, for uColorStart and uColorEnd, we need to provide 3 JS color instances. Okay, so first we need to import, don't save with the empty uniform like this, it's not going to work. First we need to import 3JS. I'm going to do it here because I like to import dependencies first and then other files. So it's going to be all as 3 from 3, like that. Then back to the uniforms, we can add, where is it? There. We can send an object like that. I'm going to add some line breaks. Okay, so inside that uniforms, we're going to send an object, and it's the usual uniforms object. There is the uTime. We set it to 0 by providing an object with a value property to 0. And then we provide the uColorStart. Like this, we send an object, and to that object there is a value property, and now we can instantiate a color. So 3.color. You can put, I'm going to put white and black, but you can put, I don't know, some red, blue, purple, whatever. Like that. And I'm going to duplicate this one, so don't forget the comma here. I'm going to remove it here, and it's going to be uColorEnd, and I'm going to provide a different color, so the end is going to be dark. Is it the opposite? Maybe I switched them. Anyway, 6 values in there. Yeah. Give it a reload, and the portal is back. Okay, you need to give it a reload for some reason, but now it's working. It's not animated, so we're going to fix that, but we have our portal back. Nice. But there is a helper for that, as always. So it's working, and we can animate this one, but I want to show you something else. We could almost end the lesson right here, but we are here to learn more stuff, so let's learn more stuff. Dre provides a helper called, obviously, shader material, okay, that creates a shader material. Makes sense. And then we are going to make that shader material available in the JSX, just like we can create a mesh basic material. Okay, so that we implement better in React 3 Fiber. You will see how. And it's going to be also easier to update the uniforms, which is perfect, so that we can tweak the time more easily. So the helper is named shader material. As you can see, it's not a hook. It's not a tag either that we can add to the JSX. You will see that it's a bit different. So we import shader material from Dre. Okay, make sure that we are importing from Dre right here. Then outside of the expand function, before the expand function, we're going to do const. We're going to create a material. It's going to be portal material and use that shader material. That's the reason why it's not a use shader material, because it's not a hook that we put inside the component. It's not a tag either. It's something else. It's just a function that we call and that will create something. Next to that material, we need to provide to that function, we need to provide 3 parameters. The first parameter is going to be the uniform. So I'm going to add some line breaks. I'm right between the parentheses. I'm going to add an object, which is my uniform. Don't copy it from the one we had over there, because it's a bit different, okay? we're going to provide uTime, it starts the same, and then we provide the value directly. So it's a bit easier already. Okay, you don't have to provide an object with a value property, you just provide the value. Then uColor start, and this one is the same, but without the value thingy. So new 3 color, and I'm going to send some white like this. And then uColor end like that, and provide black like this. Okay, great. And then we have 2 more parameters. Don't save yet, it might bug. The 2 other parameters are the vertex shader and the fragment shader. So let's go. Portal vertex like this, and portal fragment like that. Okay, make sure you have the same as me. Don't save yet, we are not using it yet. Next, we want, so this will create the material, and I can log it actually. If you're curious, just check my screen. It's going to create a class that we can instantiate. All right, it's going to create a new material that we can use, but that's not the way we want to use it. We want to be able to use it like we use a mesh basic material like this. And we already did something similar at the very beginning of the chapter when we implemented orbit controls. Remember, we did some tweaks so that in the end we can write something like orbit controls like that. Remember, we're going to do the same here. Then after that, we use the orbit controls helper, which is a bit different because it's uppercase O. It's much more convenient, but at the end, at the beginning, we did that ourselves. And we're going to use the extend function from from React 3 Fiber. So let's go. We're going to import it. We don't have React 3 Fiber yet, so import extend from React 3 Fiber. We imported extend, and after creating the portal material, we're going to use it, and we're going to send it an object. We have to send it an object, choose a name for it, so it's going to be portal material, and then send the actual material, the class for it. And as you can see, it's the same name, so we can remove this one like that. And by doing that, we are going to make a new tag available in React 3 Fiber, which is going to be portal material, and we will be able to write it like that in camel case, just like that, inside the JSX. Okay, I can save. Make sure that you have no error in the console. If you have an error, just check your code and compare to mine. And now back to the mesh, which is over there. So this whole thing there, check that. I'm going to remove that and just add the tag that we made available through extend. Just like that. I'm going to save, and now it's working. Nice. The solution might not look much easier. Okay, it was a bit tricky because we had to import extend, know how extend is working, we had to use that helper, etc. But by doing that, well, first we can integrate better into React 3 Fiber, because to use it, we just do that. We add this tag. We don't even have to provide the default uniforms. It just works like this. Also, we can use this tag, so portal material, multiple times. If for some reasons you have other portals, you can add this tag to the other portals. Doesn't really make sense in this example, but for bigger project with a bunch of material, you can even put the new materials in a different file, so that every materials you need to create, you create them in a different file, and then you just use them in your React 3 Fiber application. And finally, it makes updating the uniform easier. You will see right now, because we need to, initially we just wanted to animate the uTime. We're going to do it right now. It's going to be easy. So yeah, animating. It's time to animate our portal, and we are going to update the uTime uniform. So first we need a reference to that material. So we're going to import useRef from React. Let's go. UseRef from React, like that. Then in our experience function, so right here, we're going to create a reference. I'm going to add it there. Usually I add them at the beginning right here, but I can do some different stuff. So it's going to be the portal material, useRef, like that. And then we're going to associate it with the material itself, okay, by adding a ref attribute here, like that. It's the usual Okay, there is no trick here. We just created a reference and associated that reference with that material using the ref attributes. I did something wrong. I wrote to use ref. What the hell? The name is portal material. Like that. Okay, so now we have a portal material reference to that material. We can animate it, but to animate, we need to do it on each frame. And to do something on each frame, we need to use the use frame hook from React 3 Fiber. So let's go. We're going to import it. Use frame from React 3 Fiber. Make sure that you are importing from Fiber and not Dre or React or whatever. Then we can go down there and we're going to add it to put it right after the portal material. So use frame. We provide a function, and as always, that function will be called on each frame. Check that. Tick, 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 tick. And regardless of your device frame rate. We're going to get the delta. So we're going to add the state and the delta. We only need the delta. And we can update the material by using the reference. And it's going to be portal material current. Don't forget the current. I always forget the current. U time directly. We don't have to target the uniforms U time value like we used to do in native 3JS. We can just target the uniform like that. Plus equal, and I'm just going to use the delta as it is, like that. And it's working. Easy. And if you want to make it faster, when you multiply by 10, it goes a bit more crazy. Nice. We have completed the portal. Let's check how many lines we have. Oh, I don't have the lines available right here, but it's something like 70 lines of code. Check on your computer. Not much. We added some more line breaks, so maybe it's a bit more, but we can breathe a little in the code, and it was super fast. And although we went through different features and discovered new React and React 3 Fiber features, you can go further. All right, we just recreated what we already had in the initial lesson, but you can obviously go further, especially because you've learned a bunch of new things and you have access to the Dre helpers. So maybe have a look to the Dre helpers and try to find some helpers that you can add here and there to make the scene a bit better. It's up to you. Just try some stuff and I don't know, show them to me on Discord, on Twitter. If you're doing it on Twitter, don't forget the 3GS journey hashtag. And yeah, we'd be glad to see it. And we are done with this lesson, and I will see you in the next lesson.